to worry about anything now, Dad. Listen, I'm getting a brand new Cadillac. I'm getting a $60,000 house. I'm getting it all back. All the jewelry, all the furs, everything, Dad. Everything they took from us, I'm gonna get it back.
I had an FBI agent come see me. You got their number, son. They're kind of scared. The United States government champ, running for the hills. Pow, to the moon. They're never gonna catch you, Frank. Come on, sit with me, have a drink. I'm your father.
Then ask me to stop. Then ask me to stop.
You can't stop.
Hey everybody, welcome. My name is Matt. I'm here with Andrew. Today we're going to be talking about Catch Me If You Can, the amazing true story of the youngest and most daring con man in the history of fun and profit. So grab your popcorn and Reese's Pieces and let's break it down on the Post Credit Podcast. What are we talking about today?
Catch Me If You Can.
So we've decided to do one of his most iconic, E.T., followed by two of the lesser movies, less famous movies, I guess.
Yeah.
But, we enjoy these movies. We want to talk about them. We're obviously going to talk about a lot better Spielberg movies, a lot more fun Spielberg movies, a lot more deep Spielberg movies. Mm-hmm. But, why not get these ones out of the way? Because we want to talk about them. There's not a whole lot to talk about them based on our preferences. Mm-hmm. These are great movies, and we really enjoy them. But, they're not top-tier Spielberg.
Yeah.
So today we're going to be talking about Catch Me If You Can. This movie came out in 2002. It was directed by Steven Spielberg. The screenplay was written by Jeff Nathanson. It's based off a book by Frank Abgnale Jr. The book is called Catch Me If You Can, the amazing true story of the youngest and most daring con man in the history of fun and profit. What a title. Mm-hmm. What a title. I really think they should have used that as a movie title. I mean, it wouldn't fit in the marquee, but does To Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, something, something, Julie Newmar. Does that fit in the marquee? No, but they still named it that.
Yeah, but it's still, do they even have marquees so much anymore?
No, but, I just think that would have been a hilarious title to keep the whole title in there. I mean, obviously, Frank Abgnale Jr. is like very much of, has a good, healthy ego,
Yeah, you think?
The amazing true story of the youngest and most daring con man in the history of fun and profit.
And because, him and, what's his name? Sean O'Reilly.
Yeah, the real life Hanratty.
Those two characters those two people are actually real people.
Oh, yeah. Pretty much everybody in here is a real person.
Right, and it's funny because the guy that said, what was it? Let's see. He said the conversation every Christmas, right? The one they had every Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he was saying that Abgnale said, points out the flawless logic. Why would I do that? I didn't want the FBI to, know where I was. So why would he actually call that, And that was kind of like a true story, and you kind of wonder if like anything else throughout the.
So he actually really did story. That?
Yeah.
You're talking about?
Yeah.
Well, I know that.
Well, no. He's saying, why would I do that? He said, why would I call the FBI every Christmas to, so they could finally figure out where I was?
So that's not a true part of the story.
No, it's definitely not. But you kind of wonder if any of these other stories are actually true, or maybe kind of
from Frank Abgnale's perspective and opinion. He says that this movie and the book are about 80% true.
Okay.
So, when he left as a kid, when he ran away, he never came back. He never saw his dad again. So, the times that he came back and visited his dad, that didn't actually happen. His dad, he ran away, and his dad passed away before he got to see him again. So, maybe that was just and he allowed that to be in the book and the movie. So maybe he missed, he regretted not going back and seeing his dad. Maybe the scenes of him talking to his dad are what he wished he would have done, connected, maybe talked to his dad a little bit more. Maybe he felt like he had abandoned his dad. His wife had abandoned his dad, or his mom, whatever.
Yeah, because, if you think about it, right, the way he is because of his dad.
Yeah.
The way he acts, the way he thinks, the way he perceives everything is the same way his father does. His father just doesn't have enough guts to really do things illegally.
Right.
He's always been kind of follow the rules kind of person, where that's where the only difference between him and his dad are. You know what I mean? Because his dad basically taught him how to do all this stuff and how to talk and act this way, but I think he just exasperated it, when he did it.
Exacerbated it.
There we go.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I'm glad you're on that track because I want to get in talking about him and his dad and the difference between the two.
We could start right now because it's just that's kind of the beginning.
Say this is my
the
show, and I can start it if I want to. Well, we got to talk about the movie itself, though. This movie just stars Leonardo DiCaprio as Frank Abgnale Jr. It stars Tom Hanks as Carl Hanratty, Christopher Walken as Frank Abgnale Sr., Martin Sheen as Roger Strong. It also stars Natalie Bay, Amy Adams, James Brolin, Brian Howe, Frank John Hughes, Steve Easton. Do you want to go over some of these, I don't know, would you call them cameos? The big ones are like Jennifer Gardner, Ellen Pompeo, Elizabeth Banks.
Yeah, but they were kind of like right there at the beginning,
Yeah, and there was somebody that was a stewardess that used to be in the Whedonverse, like on Dollhouse, and what was her name? I can't remember her name.
Wait, hold on.
But
Amy Adams.
Yeah, Elizabeth Banks, Ellen Pompeo, Jennifer Gardner. Can't think of the other one right now. I'll think of it in a bit. But it's interesting. Did you know that this movie was first going to be done by Gore Verbinski? Gore Verbinski. He's a guy that did the Pirates movies and stuff.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So he was going to cast Ed Harris in the role of Frank Sr., Christopher Walken's role.
Okay, I could see that.
What do you think the dad would have been like if he had cast Ed Harris? Ed Harris, obviously, of Apollo 13 and The Rock fame. So knowing how Ed Harris plays this role and how he plays it a lot, Ed Harris plays his roles very severe and serious. He doesn't play like comical roles.
No, I don't think he did a good job.
Unless it's something making fun of how serious he is, But he's just a very, very serious actor. Whereas I think Christopher Walken kind of gave... I think Ed Harris, it would have brought the role to a much more serious and like depressing level, right? Because he's such a he would have taken that stuff with his wife leaving his son and the tax people coming after him and all that. He would have taken that so seriously and just gotten to tears. But Christopher Walken's portrayal played well with like the fantastical whimsy of a Steven Spielberg movie, right? Because he was playful in his sadness. He was sad. Oh, this is what's going on. But whenever he talked to his son, where are you going, Frank? He would be still a little bit playful, almost like he's trying to put up a front for his son and everything. So I think the differences between, Christopher Walken and Ed Harris, it would have completely changed how that character was seen. Because you still felt a little bit bad for this guy.
Yeah, and the thing was with the way that Christopher Walken portrayed, and the character's portrayal, as far as, raising, our main character here, and the way he did it, I think he could play that kind of still, sad with a smile on type.
Ed Harris?
No.
Christopher Walken.
Christopher Walken.
Yeah.
The sad clown, that kind of thing, but Ed Harris couldn't do it, because if you think about it, he was always like protecting Leo's character, you know what I mean? And so he was protecting him from seeing the bad parts, and the
he learned
consequences to actions.
Yeah.
He was hiding that from Leo, Leo's character.
Because Christopher, the senior part, Frank Abgnale Sr., Christopher Walken's character, he wasn't really a con man.
No,
he was a con man at a low level. Like he didn't. That's not what he used to support himself and to like get money and to support his life or whatever. But he'd do it in little instances. Whether it's that person at the teller, did you drop this in the park? It must have slipped right off your neck.
But I think the biggest thing is he never taught him consequences. He never taught his son consequences.
Like when he got in trouble at school.
Yeah, when he got in trouble at school, he kind of laughed it out, smiling, because looking at his son, almost like being proud that he was that smooth that he could pretend to be the teacher for 2 weeks. And then think that it's the teacher's substitute for 2 weeks. And his dad was kind of like admiring him because he could kind of see like, oh, well, look, this is things that I've taught him and things that he could be and things like that, but with the way that he was, he didn't teach him any kind of consequences to any kind of actions. And that's probably what made Junior be so outlandish, thinking he can get away with anything that he wants to, do anything that he wants to without fear of consequences.
On that line, let me just talk about this one thing and we'll get into the story. There are two leads in this movie, right? Tom Hanks and I almost said the other one.
Tom Cruise.
Yeah, whatever. We just did Minority
Tom
Report.
Hanks and Tom Cruise.
Hanks and Leonardo DiCaprio. There's two leads here.
DiCaprio.
Not many people can make Tom Hanks feel like a secondary character. When he's in a movie, he's pretty much always the main character.
Yeah, absolutely.
He is a main character actor. So is Leonardo DiCaprio. But not many people can, even if he is in with others, he's always going to outshine the people that he's in there. So not many people can make him feel like a secondary character, but Leonardo DiCaprio can.
Yeah.
And not many people can make Leonardo DiCaprio look like a secondary character, but Tom Hanks does. So okay, so maybe it's not done. Maybe it's not done as well to Leonardo DiCaprio because he's obviously the star, but I know Tom Hanks was brought in as that secondary character, but usually he could outshine anybody.
But it's kind of the same situation with Johnny Depp and What's Eating Gilbert Grape. Johnny Depp and Leo's.
Yeah, but that was before Leo had really gained that reputation.
Still, at that point, look, he's mildly disabled. Well, he's disabled. Let's just say that he's disabled, and still coming out with some of the greatest content in the entire movie.
Yeah,
as Arnie, and where then you got Johnny Depp, who is also just like the main character in a way, and it's kind of like the same situation with this
Johnny
movie.
Depp's one of those actors that it's hard for him to be a secondary character, and Leonardo DiCaprio, even though it was that early in his career. Now, that movie had more focused on Gilbert, and whenever Gilbert was around, usually Arnie was around as well.
Yeah.
So it kind of played that. Whereas Catch Me If You Can, you're switching back and forth to this person's story, to that person's story.
And it's great that's what's one of the many things good about this movie is the fact that, our two main characters, like as we were just talking about, they don't share a scene until the very end of the movie.
They're on the phone.
They're always.
Oh no! He caught him in that hotel room. Remember, in the middle.
But at the was it at the middle?
Yeah, it was at the middle because he had caught him and he had him, but then he bluffed his way out of it to grab his little typewriter thing. And
I get you on that, and that one was kind of a great scene. But true. But even that what we did see was very, very little screen time with these two characters, even though they're the main characters of the movie, but little screen time together.
Yeah. And in that scene, I think Leonardo DiCaprio's character schooled Tom Hanks' character, but I think Tom Hanks' acting schooled Leonardo DiCaprio's acting because, yes, Leonardo DiCaprio did very good. Leo, it's going to be a mouthful to keep saying his full name. Leo did very good with trying to act like, going from a younger person trying to act like an older person. But Tom Hanks,
you don't know him personally, so don't call him Leo.
But Tom Hanks slowly kind of like, oh, well, maybe this guy is telling the truth. The way it kind of like dawned on him, like, oh, okay. Wait, I
kind of felt like he went dumb. Yeah.
If you're sure that I should believe you, that type of thing, And then finally when Leo leaves the room, he kind of sits down like, I almost shot this guy and everything. But his realization, wait, should I check this wallet? it's the facial expressions from Tom Hanks in that scene blow me away every time. But you just see he doesn't have to really say anything. You just see the realization wash over him of, oh my God, this is the guy. Well, maybe it's not the guy. Okay, thank God it's not the guy. Wait, maybe it's the guy. Oh crap, it's the guy. Going through all those emotions with just kind of facial expressions.
Was
amazing.
it the Burbs? Was that the movie that he was back in the day?
He was in the Burbs with Carrie Fisher.
That's right. That's right. He was kind of like, he doesn't play that type of character that it seems like everybody just gets over on him a lot. You know what I mean? And so it was like hard to see Tom Hanks.
Forrest Gump. It's like another one of those characters we talk about. Like, just things happen great for him. And
yeah. But he has a lot of characters like that. I mean, he just did Mr. Rogers, and things like that. And but like every single one of his characters, he kind of seems like he's on the up and up. Like
except for Captain Phillips. I am the captain now.
Well, even then, I mean, they made it, at the end,
Apollo 13.
Yeah. Yeah.
So another movie that I'm very excited to do sometime. Maybe not this season, but next.
Yeah, and I just kind of think, like, with him, he was a lot smarter than that. I can't believe Leonardo got on to him. I don't know
well, Tom Hanks,
so I call him Leonardo.
But I mean, that was just stuff like that really happened. But that kind of showed a little bit of the ineptitude of early federal agents.
And he was probably pretty green, like, because over the time, what was it, like 20 years that he was kind of in and out tracking this guy.
Yeah.
And so you figure when we first saw him, he was probably pretty young and new at this FBI thing in a way, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking.
Sorry, I was remembering one of the quotes from Tom Hanks in the movie, and it always makes me laugh. I can't wait to get to it. So, so we start out in 1963. Teenager Frank Abgnale Jr., played by Leonardo DiCaprio, lives with his father, Frank Sr., and his French mother, Paula. So Frank's Sr. starts, dealing with problems with the IRS and tax evasion, stuff like that. Families, forced to move from their large home to a small apartment in the city, all that kind of stuff. So you get a sense that his father is somewhat of a small-time con man, not using it to live a life, but to like get into a free movie or to get a discount or a free jacket or something like that, but nothing crazy. He uses his charm. I mean, it's the same charm. If you look at it, he's very respected in his community before his tax problems, right? Didn't he won like a Chamber of Commerce award at the beginning or something? His wife looked like she adored him. His son adored him. Everybody in the room adored him, right? I think it all comes from his, latent con man personality. And I say latent because he never took it to the level that his son did, but whenever he tells the story over and over and over of how he got Frank's mom, like there was all these other guys, she was dancing, all these other men, and I'm the one that took her home. You get kind of a sense that he probably laid on some of his, smooth talking, his scamming type of stuff. And maybe that's how she was kind of seduced or whatever. He came back from the war. By the way, is this the third time we've seen, or has there been more, Christopher Walken as a war vet? So like he was in this one. In Pulp Fiction, he played Bruce Willis's dad, who was uniformed, right? Mm-hmm. And then he did in Deer Hunter with
that's right.
De Niro and all them. I don't know. I have a feeling that he's played more war veterans, but it's kind of interesting. But
wasn't he one in what is that? We did a podcast over it.
Which one? Oh, you're talking about True Romance?
Yes.
Yeah, but he was a mob guy in that. He wasn't a war vet.
No, he was a police officer in that.
No, you're thinking of Dennis Hopper. He played
that's right.
Clarence's dad.
Right,
yeah.
right.
So, but yeah, no, like you get a sense that he brought her home because he was charming and he had that like con man personality. He was loved by the Chamber of Commerce and did all this stuff. But you see that he does con man stuff all the time. Kind of uses his charm to convince this person or that person or weaker-willed people, I guess, to do what he wants. So he's gotten this status, and he's been avoiding taxes and stuff. It only lasted so long. Then the house of cards started to fall. they got evicted. They had to go to a lesser neighborhood, a lesser school, all this kind of stuff. He was dealing with problems, and then that kind of broke the illusion for the wife, I think. And then she found somebody else, obviously, in the form of James Brolin, who played kind of a rich guy from their old neighborhood and everything that she started having an affair with. Do you know what Catch Me If You Can got on Rotten Tomatoes?
What did it get?
I was just asking.
Oh,
96 critic score, 89 audience score.
I always, I don't know why they have the critics, score on it. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, who goes on there to say, I'm going to watch this movie, I'm going to check what the critics say about it, not what other people say about it.
That's why we always go to audience scores. Now, here's the thing. Critics are supposed to find the flaws.
Exactly, but unless you're another critic, I wonder if critics
sounds like a miserable life.
Seriously, I mean, I wonder if other critics go like, oh, I don't want to see what the audience score is if I'm going to go watch this movie. I'm going to see what the other critics' score is. Maybe.
Because if you think over time, somebody who focuses on the negative so much that like their entire job is to zone in on the negative,
Absolutely.
it's just going to make them a negative person.
Absolutely.
In general, that's got to be something that like tarnishes your soul, your
it's a
being,
horrible
and
life.
everything. So yeah,
I'm not saying all critics are like that. I'm just saying it doesn't sound very appealing to me.
No, I get the need for critics. I just could never be one. I can't embrace that much negativity. If something,
we're kind of literally critiquing critics right now.
We're like the opposite. They look for the bad and we look for the good. Because there's a lot of bad movies out there that we like that a lot of people don't like.
Yeah.
And that's us looking for the good, I think. And I don't know who looks for the ugly.
But we know who looks for the good and bad.
Right.
But we just don't know who
who's the ugly.
Okay.
So the mother starts having an affair with Jack Barnes, who's kind of a family friend in the Chamber of Commerce, but obviously separated himself from the Abgnales or whatever. So, they ask Frank to pick who he wants to live with. Obviously, it's too much for Frank. He runs away. In real life, he never sees his dad again. I believe he's maybe talked to his mom once or twice, but remember, she went and started a whole new life.
Yeah, she dropped everything in her past or in her current present and just said, "Let's start over."
That's got to be hard with the son thing because most mothers it's to make a child decide. That's a terrible thing, anyways. But
at the same time, there might be a reason why they decide on one or the other. You know what I mean? And it's kind of, I get that. When you're married, you decide things together. And then when you're married, you can't really decide together on things anymore.
You mean when you're divorced?
Divorced, that's what I mean. I mean, who knows? But no, when you're divorced, and so to make a child pick like that, it's probably the only best option in that sense. You know what I mean? Because it at least gives them both parents a chance.
Yeah. So it showed me that the father, he had certain skills, but he never honed them enough to do anything with them. And it all came down. The wife that maybe he'd used his little confidence skills on or whatever, she saw through it eventually. The Chamber of Commerce, that all came down when he had to deal with the tax problems, and then he was still dealing with the IRS wanted more money from him, all that. So I think that's like kind of a precursor or a foreshadowing for what was going to happen to Frank Jr. Because you can't run forever. As Henready, Tom Hanks' character says to him, the house always wins. Eventually, you're going to get caught. You can't do this forever. There's probably people out there who have been doing it for a long time and still have never been caught. But
but we're all human, and humans get greedy. I hate to say it, but all humans get greedy. It doesn't matter what it is. It could not be money. It could be anything you can be greedy at. And so that's why that's what he was talking about. Because everybody's human. You eventually get caught. I mean, you might be going for a long time, but you still get caught.
Yeah. So I mean, it's that's that type of father he had too, and where he was pretending to be a substitute teacher for a week or two. and never got caught. When they got brought in, his mom looked pissed, but his dad just kind of looked at him, and they both started laughing as they walked away and stuff.
Yeah.
And his dad's kind of like, I can't believe you did that, you know. And that was kind of like his jumping off point. Whereas his dad would see all the things he eventually goes to do. I can't believe he's doing that. But so, anyways, he's forced to decide who he wants to live with. He can't decide, so he runs away. He finds a place in New York where he's trying to stay, but he needs money, so he comes up with these scams. And basically, he sees this pilot, sees how much respect. Because back in the day, pilots used to be like celebrities nowadays.
Yeah.
So you may not know them, but if you saw them, it was like seeing a member of the Beatles, or maybe not that extreme, but it was kind of like seeing a celebrity. They were hugely respected and admired. And when Frank saw this pilot surrounded by these flight attendants, stewardesses as they were called back in the day, these beautiful women, he looked happy and he had this great life and everything. He's like, that's what I want. So he, found a way to get a uniform, all this kind of stuff, found more about how Pan Am works and how checks work and all that kind of stuff. Started his check cashing scheme. So he would write bad checks. He would forge checks from Pan Am using, stickers from model planes, which is a real thing that he actually did. Things like that, and going to the supply warehouse for the pilots to get a uniform. He actually did that.
Yeah.
So he started to make a name for himself. I think that somebody had given him like a title to his name, like a moniker. I just don't remember what it was called. Oh, Skyway Man. They called in the papers. They called Frank Abgnale Jr. the Skyway Man. But as he's doing this, we're introduced to an FBI agent, Carl Hanratty, who begins to track Frank. And so Carl Hanratty is basically what was his name? Sean
O'Reilly.
Was it Sean O'Reilly? I know that he was. Oh my gosh, I hate this phone.
And that wasn't the actual person's name, because he was still in the FBI when he wrote this book, so he had to use a different name for him.
Joseph Shea was the real name.
Was the real name, yeah.
So Carl Hanratty is actually based on several FBI agents who pursued Frank Abgnale, but mostly it's based on one that was named Joseph Shea, and it was him who caught Frank, hired him at the FBI, and then became friends with him for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
He had to call him, what did he call him? Sean O'Reilly or whatever. Yeah, they call him that when his book came out, because when the book came out, I think it was in the 80s or 90s or whatever, but when the book came out, he was still, that agent was still working at the FBI, so he didn't want to name him or anything.
Yeah,
but.
So
anyways, we get introduced to Hanratty, played by Tom Hanks. And it's one of my favorite scenes, and it's the best way to introduce somebody, right? He's driving with two other guys, and they're like, oh, this guy. They don't like Carl. They don't like that they've been placed under him and they have to work for him and all that kind of stuff. He's never funny. He's always serious and stuff. And so finally they kind of tell him as much, and he's like, oh,
would you like to hear me tell a joke?
Yeah, we'd love to hear a joke from you.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Go f yourselves.
it's so funny, and it's like the way he said it and the way he set it up and everything.
Yeah.
Exactly the way a certain boss of mine I know that I've worked for before would say it.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a better way to say that. So I don't know. Anyways, I really like that scene with him doing that. But like right after we're introduced to him, we see him going to the hotel.
Yeah.
That's where he find Leo's, or I guess it's an apartment complex. They just look like hotels back then or whatever.
I wonder if that part was true, actually, because, you know, if that actually happened when he got to the hotel.
When he tricked him into believing he was his Secret Service. I believe it did happen.
Okay.
You couldn't have something that blatant and, I don't know. But I think as things got closer, he started to impersonate a doctor. It really showed. It didn't show the transition to him becoming a doctor, or quote unquote becoming a doctor.
Yeah.
It was kind of weird. You know, he was doing his Pan Am thing, and he had this party going on, and he goes to the hospital to see somebody, and suddenly he wants to become a doctor.
Yeah.
So maybe he had just discovered that the check cashing was getting a little bit too close, and so he's like, I'm going to become a doctor. So this might be easier to make money because now he doesn't have to get false checks. Now he can actually get paid for doing nothing.
Yeah.
So he takes a position as an overnight attending doctor, and forges a Harvard degree and all this kind of stuff, and puts it to where, okay, I have other doctors working below me. All I have to do is just not work on a patient, and we should be good. I won't kill anybody. I'll get to collect a paycheck. And it showed it. He'd watch a TV show and like, oh, do you concur, doctor? And then he'd use that in real life conversation when they're talking about this person who was obviously mutilated, bleeding, and needed help. And he's like, do you concur, doctor? And he's like, that we need to do that? Yeah, that's, it's one of these things where he was having the doctors do his work for you. Okay, carry on. Yeah, do what you need to do. That's got to have some balls. You got to have some balls to do something like that because you're talking about if you make a mistake, you're killing somebody.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just check cashing anymore. I mean, that's still stealing from people. But that's got to be tough. So, we along the way we get all our cool little cameos from all the girls and different things like that. Let's see. And then he would go back and visit his dad every once in a while.
Yeah.
Now, he went back. Now, obviously, this never happened in real life, and this was written for the movie. Whether it's based on what he wished he would have done to go back and see his dad, or maybe the movie put it in there just as like a dream. He dreamed about going to see his dad, but he never did.
Mm-hmm.
And he just assumed that his dad would still be struggling as a postal worker or whatever it is. But do you think that he knew he was scamming and was not really a pilot when he came back? Remember they had dinner and he was like looking at, he's like, I pay him this and they want more money. And he's like, come sit down, and they talk, and he's like, what have you been doing? And he talks about being a pilot. But he goes, this detective came and saw me and all that, and he's like, where are you going tonight? There's two different scenes. There's one where he takes him out to a dinner and gives him a key to a car. He bought him a Cadillac. And then another scene where he's kind of in a dive bar, later on, where his dad's not doing too well. But in the dinner scene where he gives him a car.
Don't worry. I'm not going to let it go without a fight. I'm fighting for us.
Dad.
Since the day we met.
Daddy, out of all those men, you were the one that took her home. Remember that?
200 men. Sitting in that tiny social hall watching her dance. What was the name of that town?
Montréchard, Dad.
I didn't speak a word of French. 6 weeks later, she was
She's your wife.
My son bought me a Cadillac today. I think that calls for a toast.
And he's just blown away about what his son's doing. Do you think that he really believes that his son is a pilot?
No.
Or do you
don't
think that he knows he's conning?
He knows he's conning. And he
It
knows
was before
he's
the FBI
right.
came to him.
Yeah, I know, but he knew he's just exactly like him.
Right.
His dad knew that he was
They had
exactly
to talk
the
about
same.
it like it was a real thing, but underneath it, but they both really knew what they were talking about.
I'm sure he saw that. Okay, he bought him a car, so it's like he's obviously making enough money.
He's like,
But I
teared
think-
up. My son bought me a Cadillac.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I felt like he was. I think he knew, but he was just kind of putting it in the background in a way where it was like he knew, but he was more proud that his son was proud and his son was doing well and making money and things like that. I think that's really what he cared about, most.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a part of him that almost wishes it was true, because then he wouldn't have to be dealing with the struggles. His son wouldn't have to be dealing with the struggles that he himself was dealing with, as far as having to do the tax thing and all. But he, his dad was all about, having the freedom to, to scam what you can.
Yeah.
If you can scan it, it's not your fault. It's their fault for letting it happen.
Yeah.
So, but I think maybe there was a part of him that, maybe hoped that his son didn't have to deal with some of the stuff that he was doing. But then he saw how well his son was doing it.
Yeah.
And he even said, they're never going to catch, in the next scene that they have dinner together or whatever in that bar, he's like, they're not going to, when he found out that he was scamming, he's like, they're not going to catch you. They're never going to catch you, Frank. You're too good. If you get caught, it's only because you want to get caught.
Yeah.
And in the end, maybe he did want to get caught. In the movie, it showed that it was Hanratty who had found him in France because of the printing machines and worked with local authorities and all that. But really, it was in real life, it was his womanizing that, some flight attendant who had noticed him.
Yeah.
And had found out afterwards that with her, from when she knew him, that he was a scam artist. She had noticed him in France and told the authorities, and the French people, the French police caught him and everything. So,
that's the truth.
That's the truth of what really happened and everything. Like the other agent actually was there and processed and brought him back and everything like that. Caught him in a certain way, but it was really just because of his past that got him caught. So. Yeah, I think that father role was very kind of a tragic role because he was a man of confidence, a man of respect back in the war. People respected him. And he brought back this beautiful French woman and married her and started a life together and was respected in his community. And then everything just came tumbling down because, he tried to do things the shortcut way and, kind of bit him in the butt. And then I'm assuming that the way he died in the movie is the way he died in real life because it was very weird and random. He fell down some stairs trying to catch a train, and that's how he died. And the fact that the FBI agent, not that Hanratty owed Frank anything, but the fact that he just kind of told him was like,
Frank, your father is dead. I'm sorry. I didn't want to say anything until he got closer to home. He fell down some steps at Grand Central Station trying to catch a train. I didn't want to be the one to tell you.
You're lying, right? You said I could talk to him. Carl, who are you to say something like that, huh? Who are you to say something like that? You said I could talk to him.
And he broke his neck. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry.
and then he scooted back over to the next seat, like that's as quickly as he could get it out, and then he just kind of went to his own thing, and that's when Frank was like, "Are you kidding me? You couldn't have told me this before." But anyways, we get the scene where he goes south, and he meets this nurse. Well, he's a doctor, and goes south with her to meet her family and everything. Now, in real life, she wasn't a nurse, but he did meet somebody that he was going to marry.
Yeah.
And fell in love with, which is who Amy Adams' character is based on.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, she had the biggest cameo in this role out of all those that we saw with Jennifer Gardner, Elizabeth Banks, Ellen Pompeo, all these people. Amy Adams actually had like the main storyline with him going to marry her, and she had the braces. And how do you think she played her role? Because I think this was her first breakout role.
I thought she was really good in this film. I mean, because she played that role right. I mean, she's smarter than she looks kind of thing, where she knew that he was up to something, and he was, not the person that he's telling everybody he is, but she liked him for him. It was as straight as that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And she you
don't think it was a prestige she liked in him because he's a doctor and he's going to become a lawyer? Oh, I didn't know about that,
Yeah, but I think it had something to do with that, but I think she kind of knew him like his dad knew him. You know what I mean? They were able to see behind the curtain.
A little bit. I mean, she did actually find out about.
Yeah.
So he did in real life. He did eventually tell her about the thing, and they did eventually end the relationship when she tried to help him get caught.
Yeah.
Which is basically what happened in the movie. This was and this came out right after she did her Smallville thing, because she did her Smallville thing, and that came out in 2001, and this movie came out in 2002. So it was like her first big breakout. Her big breakout role, and then Martin Sheen in like this small little role tucked into this movie, which it could have been played by anybody. It wasn't a huge part. Martin Sheen isn't particularly Oscar worthy. In his role in it. So it was weird that you have an actor like that cast in a role like that, don't you think?
Yeah.
I mean, who else could have played that part?
Yeah, but it's Steven Spielberg, though. I mean, come on now. He's going to have... I mean, all he's got to do is say, hey, Harrison Ford, come be in my movie.
Yeah.
And Harrison Ford would be like, all right.
Well, it's There's probably some truth to that, because I know Jennifer Gardner was getting big on Alias. She wasn't...
Yeah, I love that show.
I know. She wasn't big yet, but... Spielberg saw her in that and was like, I wonder if she'd take a role in this movie. And she worked one day as the escort or whatever. And because didn't she play kind of like that in Alias? I know she was like an agent, but she like went undercover.
No, she's like super
escort.
Smart. Well, she did that on like every other episode.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. So she was, maybe this was her as her Alias role, and she was, I don't know. Anyways, but she did one, and he was blown away. He's like, man, she's going to be a star. I can't believe she just wanted to do this little bit in the movie. But I mean, I imagine she got a call from Steven Spielberg. Hey, do you want to do a day? Make it a minute. I don't care what it is. I'll be in your movie. So.
So if Spielberg ever called you, would you say bet?
Bet. It would be bet.
So, no, I mean, it just having all these stars in this film, even for small parts, and with Amy Adams being fairly new in this film, and then you've got Tom Hanks and Leonardo DiCaprio. You know what I mean? In a film together.
Oh, and the mom was played by the mom from My Name Is Earl.
Yes,
this is Amy Adams' mom.
Yeah,
remember she was the mom in My Name Is Earl.
But
such a great show.
It is. I just think that if Steven Spielberg, he has just like, he could probably get any selection of actors in any film he does.
Yeah, like Scorsese can do that. Spielberg can do that. Probably Paul Thomas Anderson, maybe Cameron Crowe. I mean, but you have all like Brian De Palma, Scarface, and some of these other movies that he did, and Coppola and Spielberg, and maybe not George Lucas, but I mean, like a lot of directors where actors would be like,
maybe
yes.
not George Lucas, but
well, I mean, like actors would be like, yes. Well, they'd be like, is he directing? Yes. No, George Lucas isn't directing. He's only wrote the story. Does he have a screenwriter? Yes. Okay, I'll be in it. Nobody wants to be in a movie where. Never mind. I don't want to bash.
Anyways, but yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, Carl Hanratty finally tracks Frank down in France. He's using these huge press to make tons of checks, which, knowing how checks would eventually disappear wasn't a very good, future plan.
And how is he going to cash that many checks? I mean, we're not talking about like 10 or 20 here. We're talking about thousands.
He's become a man of excess, but also he could probably start a network of people cashing checks for them. You keep this much, send me this much, and I'll send you your next check.
He's like the ultimate con man, but it's kind of one of those things where he I think the reason he got caught, to be honest with you, I mean, as far as the movie goes, right? But I think the reason he got caught was because of his excess.
Yeah.
He got because he was moving up through stages throughout the whole film. You know what I mean? He started out small, with conning about being a teacher, and then
if you never have any firm walls that you hit, you're just going to keep going.
No consequences whatsoever. So I think he reached the peak there where it was just like, where can I? He can't really go any further than because he's a forger.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think he saw that his dad's. The combination of his dad's man of confidence skills and the guy who his mother was sleeping with, his money is what led to a good life. You know, if you could get that money by using his dad's skills or whatever, you'd have it made.
Well, it's kind of
what he tried to do.
You know,
maybe he thought he could bring his family back together if he had more money.
Right. And his dad, you know, his dad's a con man, right? But he still has his walls, like you were just talking about. He still has walls that, you know, once you reach that point, you can't go any further. You might have to go a different direction. You know, he has walls there. You know, so in a way, even though he's kind of a con man, but on like the low end of the spectrum, you know, being a con man, he still had morals. Where his mother,
you're talking about his dad, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah.
Where his mother was just free and just basically trying to have a good time her entire life, you know. So it's kind of like a little bit of combination with both of those.
She
things.
went where the comfort was,
yes,
and the prestige was,
and that's exactly. So he learned the skills how to do it from his dad, but he learned who he wanted to be from his mom.
Right, because, you know, his mom's the one that left the family and abandoned the family.
Right.
What did she abandon it for? Well, she left it for money and prestige.
Yeah.
So what did Frank Abgnale Jr. spend the next few years getting? Money and prestige.
And his dad taught him how to do that.
Exactly. So that's where he got the skills from. And then eventually...
And that's probably why she was with him, because, you know, back in the day, he was like that, you know, in a way. That's why his mother was with his father and was attracted to his father.
Because he was like...
He had the money and prestige that she was after, and then when he lost it all, she was like, okay, I'm looking for money and prestige, so let's go on and so forth. And that's where I think Frank Jr. learned.
If he didn't have such a messed up childhood and was chasing those things, he might have been able to keep going with it, get smarter about it, you know, and then eventually get into different things like
jazzercise,
counterfeiting money and stuff like that. I don't know. I just think that he seems like he's got a real good eye for details and everything, and that's how he is able to recognize when he's in jail. He gets sentenced to 12 years. So, you know, he basically gets the book thrown at him, and so he's able to recognize when Hanratty brings that check that it was that a cashier at a bank was involved just because of the way that the stamp was.
Yeah.
You know, so he has such an eye for detail. He probably could have gone on to do counterfeiting, you know.
So did Frank really go through this? The real Frank?
Did go through what?
Did he work for the FBI and all that? And was it this same police officer that Tom Hanks played that recruited him, I guess?
Yeah, but it was the actual guy's name. What was his name? Went over it. I'm trying to think.
Roger Staubach.
Joseph Shea.
Okay.
Yeah. So he was the actual one that, and he had to work 4 years to get the FBI to agree to let Abgnale out of jail and serve his sentence working for the FBI.
So I wonder how much time did he really do then?
I mean, it's probably about 5. I think he had like a 12-year sentence, so it was probably like 4, because I think it was a year after he was in there was when Carl came to visit him and showed him that, and then I think he worked for the next 4 years to get him out to do that, and then got him hired. And remember, he was going to take off that one last time. I don't know if that's true life, if he actually was going to do that. It sounds like it, or it feels like it's more something cinematic meant for the movies to give you that one last little, is he going to ruin again and, you know, go off and do this? He's got a good thing now. He can work for the FBI. He doesn't have to worry about being in trouble anymore.
Well, I think what changed him, and I think there did come a change in him. I think that it was, and again, this might be all cinematic like you were saying, but I think the change, the moment that he said his father died trying to catch a train going downstairs, and I feel like that's symbolic in some sort of way, but, you know,
rushing through life.
Yeah. And so I think the moment that he was told that and how his dad died, I think at that moment he said enough. You know,
maybe because then right after that he went through the toilet and escaped from a plane, which I'm pretty sure that happened as well. Right. And then went straight to his mom's house. This is a Christmas movie, and I don't know if people want to admit that or not. It's not. It's a Christmas movie like Die Hard's a Christmas movie. You know, it's not about Christmas, but Christmas is part of it.
Yeah.
I mean, we see 4 or 5 Christmases.
Yeah.
You know, I think, you know, they call each other every Christmas. When he first picks Leonardo DiCaprio up in Okay, so he calls him like 3 or 4 times throughout the years. When he finds him in France, it's Christmas. And when he gets him from the France jail a year later, it's Christmas.
Yeah.
And then he goes and runs to his mom's house where the Christmas tree is still up and all that kind of stuff.
Well, and
maybe even when he gets out of jail, it's Christmas. I don't know.
I think, that wasn't so much like he still had enough at that point. I think he escaped for one reason only, because he wanted to see his mom, because he hears this about his dad. And, he doesn't have any more family left besides his mom, so it's like he wants to go see his mom. I don't think it had anything to do with he planned on. I mean, he knew that. No. That way,
it was because he told him that his dad died, and then he's like, "I'm going to be sick." And then first thing he thought of was, "I have to see family."
Yep.
Because he was all alone. The handwriting would even laugh at him. When he called, he's like, "Wait, you're calling me because you don't have anybody else to call." He couldn't have any friends. He couldn't have any family because then he didn't know who would turn him in. So he had to live by himself. It was a very solitude lifestyle. So he finds out that his dad's dead. He feels even more alone in this world because there was nobody he was closer to than his dad.
Yeah.
So he runs to his mom, even though she hasn't been close to him in years, and finds that she's doing well and has forgotten about him. And so he finally is like, okay, I need to let that go now. I don't have anything else. That's why he's like, get me in the car, Carl. Just get me out of here. Yeah. And so he, ends up going to jail and everything. He got away with this. I was thinking about this so much. Like Leo, he passes as a kid in this movie, but he also passes as an adult.
Yeah.
He's always been one of those weird types where he looks real young and, is, took him a while to really,
kind of like Tom Cruise.
Kind of, but like Leonardo DiCaprio is kind of like Devon Sawa or Jonathan Brandis, one of these people that they became adults and did adult roles, but you still felt like they were kind of, like a kid or whatever. I don't know. Obviously, Leo's an A+ actor, perhaps one of the best of our generation.
Right.
But in real life, you don't see that much. But through just natural processes, he actually just ended up looking younger, or looking older than he was.
Yeah.
So at the age of 16, he was already 6 foot tall, and he had premature gray hair.
Yeah.
So that's how he was able to pass off as 10 years older. He was able to pass off as a 26, 27-year-old when he was 16 or 17 because, he was 6 foot tall. He had graying hair and all that. So, it helped that in the skills with his dad. It was kind of just like this accumulation of events and natural occurrences as far as how he looked and everything that made him the perfect counterfeiter, made him the perfect criminal to get away with being somebody who he was not. So,
yeah.
Anyways, Frank Abgnale Jr., you wouldn't have liked him as Ed Harris if Ed Harris would have played him?
No.
What about Chloe Sevigny as Brenda, the one that he gets engaged to and almost marries, instead of Amy Adams?
Oh, really?
Yeah, from Boys Don't Cry.
Yeah, I know who she is. I don't think so.
No, she wouldn't have been because Chloe Sevigny, she doesn't have the innocence that Amy Adams does. She looks more worldly and stuff. And then James Gandolfini was going to be Carl Hanratty, the agent. That's who Gore Verbinski.
I could see that.
Casted.
I could see that.
Yeah. So I don't know. It would have been a very different movie, that's for sure. And if Cameron Crowe or any of these other directors had directed it, I think it would have been a very, very different movie.
Absolutely.
So, but this is a very good movie. Yes, there are some liberties taken. From the author himself says that there's liberties taken, but he's also okay with them because they go along with how he felt. For example, the scenes with his dad. He never got to see his dad again, but he missed him, and he wished he had conversations like that with his dad.
Yeah.
So his dad would know that he's doing well and all that. So if you get a chance to watch this movie, it's great. Keep in mind that most of it's true, but a lot of it is made more palpable for us to take in and everything because it's just such a huge and involved story and everything. But we really enjoy it. We recommend this if you ever get a chance. Like we said, it's rated 4th on Rotten Tomatoes out of all of Steven Spielberg movies. It's a very fantastic movie, and even the score, it's a John Williams score. It doesn't sound like a John Williams score because it's very soft and subtle, and usually he's got these epic, bombastic things, but that just shows the genius of John Williams.
Yeah.
He can make scores that are on this scale as well as a Star Wars, Superman, Indiana Jones scale. So if you guys get a chance to watch this, please do. It's a great movie, a great based on movie, and it has some heart to it, thanks to obviously Spielberg. If you guys want to get a hold of us, we're on all social media at The Post Credit Podcast. Except for Twitter, we're at The Post Credit. Our email address is thepostcreditpodcast@gmail.com. We have a website. It's www.thepostcreditpodcast.com.
We have a website.
And we're on YouTube.
All right. We appreciate you guys listening, and we'll see you next time.
And throw me a bone.